Hi, and welcome to my channel. Here we focus on simple, meaningful, and enjoyable content that fits into your everyday life. If you appreciate calm, quality videos, feel free to subscribe and stay a while. The smell of my own cologne hit me before I even opened the front door. Not the cheap stuff I wear to job sites, the bottle of Bleu de Chanel my wife gave me last Christmas, the one I save for date nights and church on Sundays. Someone had been spraying it in my house at 2 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon, and it sure as hell wasn't me. I'd come home early because Mrs. Langford's kitchen renovation got pushed back a week. 16 years running my own plumbing business in Ridgefield, Texas, and I'd learned to roll with schedule changes. What I hadn't learned was how to roll with finding a strange BMW parked in my garage, tucked behind my wife's minivan like someone was trying to hide it. The house was quiet in that specific way that means people are being quiet on purpose. I set my toolbox down on the kitchen counter, slow and deliberate, and listened. Upstairs, a floorboard creaked. Then a laugh. Jennifer's laugh, the soft one she used to save for me back when we still had something worth laughing about. I climbed the stairs like I was walking through wet concrete. Every step felt heavier than the last. Our bedroom door was closed but not locked, because why would you lock a door when your husband is supposed to be elbow deep in copper pipe fittings until 6? I pushed it open. Jennifer was in our bed with Daniel Ashworth, the senior partner at the law firm where she'd worked as a paralegal for the past 9 years, the man who came to our 4th of July barbecues, the man who shook my hand at the company Christmas party and told me I was a lucky guy. He was right about one thing: I was about to get very lucky, just not the way he meant. They froze like deer in headlights. Jennifer grabbed the sheet. Daniel reached for his glasses on the nightstand, as if seeing me more clearly would somehow make this better. "Marcus," Jennifer said. "Just my name, like that was supposed to explain everything." "Get out of my house," I said to Daniel. My voice came out flat, mechanical, like I was reading a work order, right now. Daniel dressed faster than I thought a 53-year-old man in bifocals could move. But he couldn't resist stopping at the bedroom door, adjusting his tie like he was leaving a business meeting. "Marcus, this isn't what you... If you finish that sentence, I'll finish your dental work. Get out." He left. I heard the BMW start up, tires squealing on the driveway I'd repaved myself last summer. Jennifer was sitting on the edge of the bed, crying the kind of tears that come from getting caught, not from feeling sorry. "How long?" I asked. "Marcus, please." "How long?" 14 months. 14 months. I did the math in my head. That meant it started right around our son's 15th birthday party. The one where Daniel showed up with that expensive baseball glove for Tyler, and I thought, what a generous guy. "Does Tyler know?" She looked away. That was my answer. I found my son in the backyard, shooting hoops at the basket I'd installed when he was 8. He didn't look surprised to see me home early. He didn't look surprised at all. "You knew," I said. Tyler caught the ball and held it against his hip. 16 years old, almost as tall as me, with his mother's dark eyes and my stubborn jaw. "Mom said if I told you, she'd make sure you lost custody. She said Daniel could make it happen because he's a lawyer." The words hit me like a pipe wrench to the chest. My own son, carrying that secret for God knows how long, threatened into silence by his own mother. "How long have you known?" "Since March. I came home sick from school and heard them." 5 months. My boy had been walking around with that poison inside him for 5 months and I hadn't noticed. Some father I was. "I'm sorry, Dad. You don't owe me an apology. Not for this." But when I turned to go back inside, Tyler said something that knocked the wind out of me. "She told me you don't really love us, that you only care about work. That Daniel treats her the way she deserves to be treated." I stood there in the Texas heat, sweat running down my back, and felt something shift inside me. Not break shift, like a foundation settling before it cracks. "Is that what you believe?" He bounced the ball once, twice. I don't know what I believe anymore. That night, I packed a bag and drove to the Lone Star Motor Lodge on Route 9, a place where truckers sleep and marriages go to die. $39 a night, continental breakfast, that's neither continental nor breakfast, and a view of the Dairy Queen parking lot. Home sweet home. Jennifer's calls started within hours. 17 missed calls. A cascade of texts ranging from, "We need to talk to, you're overreacting," to "think about what this will do to Tyler." Notice what was missing from every single message: the words, "I'm sorry." I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I sat on the sagging mattress and started making a list. Not of grievances, I had plenty of those. A list of everything I knew about Daniel Ashworth, Jennifer, and the neat little world they'd built on top of my broken back. See, 16 years of running a plumbing business in a town of 6,000 people teaches you things. You work in people's homes, their offices, their churches. You see what's behind the walls, literally and figuratively. You hear conversations you're not supposed to hear because nobody pays attention to the plumber. You're just the guy with the wrench, part of the furniture. Daniel Ashworth wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He was the kind of man who believed rules applied to everyone except him. I'd done plumbing work at his law firm twice, and both times I noticed things. Files left open on desks, conversations that stopped when I walked past certain offices, a general atmosphere of people who knew things they wished they didn't. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The first week at the motel, I focused on what mattered, keeping my business running and my head straight. I had 4 active jobs and a reputation built on showing up when I said I would and doing the work right. Whatever was happening in my personal life, Mrs. Chen's bathroom remodel and the Hendersons' burst pipe didn't care about my feelings. It was my buddy Ray who brought me the first real piece of intelligence. Ray ran the auto body shop on Main Street and heard everything that passed through Ridgefield on 4 wheels. "Your wife's been in Daniel's car every Tuesday and Thursday evening for the past 3 months, Ray told me over beers at the Rusty Nail, parks behind the old feed store on Elm. Thinks nobody can see from the road, but my security camera covers that whole lot. You have footage? Got about 40 hours of his BMW pulling in and her getting out of her car and into his timestamps and everything. I filed that away. Not for revenge, not yet. For insurance." The second piece came from my sister-in-law, Karen, Jennifer's own sister. Karen showed up at the motel on a Thursday night looking like she hadn't slept in days. "Jennifer's been talking to a divorce attorney," Karen said, sitting on the edge of the only chair in my room. "Not just any attorney, Mitchell Hayes. He's Daniel's college roommate." "Of course he is. Marcus, it gets worse. Daniel's been coaching her on how to build a case against you. He's telling her to document everything, your work hours, anytime you raise your voice, the fact that you keep a hunting rifle in the garage. They're going to paint you as an absent, potentially dangerous father." I felt the anger rise like hot water through a pipe, but I kept the valve shut. "What about Tyler?" Jennifer told Tyler that if the divorce happens, Daniel will adopt him, give him a better life, better opportunities. She actually said that to a 16-year-old boy about his own father. That was the moment the shift became a crack, and the crack became a plan. Ridgefield is the kind of town where the Baptist church holds more political power than City Hall, where high school football decides social status, and where secrets have a shelf life of about 48 hours unless they're the kind of secrets that powerful people work hard to keep buried. Daniel Ashworth had a lot of buried secrets. I started with the public records. Property deeds, court filings, business registrations, all available at the county clerk's office to anyone patient enough to look. What I found was interesting. Daniel owned 3 properties in Ridgefield, but only one was in his name. The other 2 were registered to an LLC that traced back to his wife's maiden name. His wife, by the way, Margaret, was a lovely woman who volunteered at the hospital and had no idea her husband was using shell companies to hide assets from her. The next layer was professional. Daniel's law firm had represented the Ridgefield School District for 15 years, a contract worth about $200,000 annually. Standard stuff, except that Daniel's brother-in-law sat on the school board that approved the contract. Nobody had ever questioned it because Daniel was a pillar of the community. He sponsored the Little League team, donated to the fire department, and always had a pew reserved at First Baptist. But the most interesting discovery came from the most unlikely source. Pete Garza, the night clerk at the Lone Star Motor Lodge, was a retired court reporter who'd worked in the county courthouse for 30 years before his pension ran dry. "That Daniel Ashworth," Pete said one night, sliding me a cup of the Motor Lodge's terrible coffee. "He represented the Dawson family in that property dispute back in 19. Supposed to be a straightforward case, but the settlement numbers never added up. I always wondered where the difference went." "How much of a difference?" "About $180,000, give or take." I almost dropped my coffee. "You think he skimmed from his own clients?" "I think a man who cheats on his wife might cheat on other things too." Pete wasn't wrong. I spent the next 3 weeks building my case. Not for court, for something more effective. I visited the county clerk's office so often that the receptionist started saving me a chair. I pulled every filing, every contract, every public record connected to Daniel Ashworth and his law firm. I cross-referenced dates, amounts, and names until a pattern emerged that was impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, Jennifer was escalating. She'd gone from tearful voicemails to threatening ones. "If you don't come home and discuss this like an adult, I'm filing for emergency custody of Tyler. Daniel says I have grounds. I saved every message." Tyler called me once during those weeks. "Dad, are you okay?" "I'm figuring some things out, buddy." "Mom says you're having a breakdown. She says you might need professional help." "Do you think I'm having a breakdown?" A long pause. "I think you're the sanest person I know, but I don't know what to do." "You don't have to do anything. Just pay attention. Watch what people do, not what they say. Can you do that for me?" "Yeah, Dad, I can do that." The Ridgefield Community Picnic happens every August, right before school starts. Half the town shows up for barbecue, live music, and the kind of small-town politicking that determines who gets what for the next 12 months. It was the perfect stage. I arrived wearing clean jeans and a pressed shirt, looking like a man who'd made peace with his circumstances. Jennifer and Daniel were holding court near the bandstand, playing the happy couple for anyone who'd watch. Tyler sat at a picnic table nearby, head down, the picture of a teenager trapped between two worlds. I worked the crowd like a man with nothing to hide and nothing to lose. Shook hands, made small talk, accepted sympathetic looks with quiet dignity. To the church ladies, I was the devoted husband who'd been wronged. To the business owners, I was the reliable tradesman they'd known for years. To everyone, I was just Marcus, same as always. Maybe a little thinner, maybe a little quieter, but still standing. The turning point came during the community toast. Every year, Pastor Williams invites someone to share a few words about family and community values. This year, somehow, my name got suggested. I suspect Ray had something to do with it. I stood up with my lemonade I'd switched to lemonade weeks ago, because a man planning a comeback can't afford foggy thinking, and waited for the crowd to settle. I want to thank this community for something, I began. For 16 years, you've trusted me to work in your homes. You've given me your keys, let me into your kitchens and bathrooms, trusted me with the pipes and systems that keep your families comfortable and safe. Nods from the crowd. Jennifer was watching me with suspicious eyes. That trust means everything to me, because trust is the foundation of everything we build. In our homes, in our businesses, in our marriages. A slight shift in the crowd. People knew where this was going, or thought they did. Recently, I've learned that trust can be broken in ways I never imagined. But I've also learned that broken pipes can be replaced, cracked foundations can be repaired, and sometimes the best thing you can do with a system that's failed is tear it out and start over with better materials. I raise my glass, to Ridgefield, to the people who build things that last, and to the truth, which has a funny way of finding every leak, no matter how well someone thinks they've patched it. The silence lasted about 4 seconds before polite applause broke out. Daniel's face had gone the color of old putty. Jennifer was gripping his arm hard enough to leave marks. Daniel found me 10 minutes later by the dessert table. That was cute, Marcus. Real cute. I thought it was heartfelt. You're embarrassing yourself. Everyone knows you're just a bitter husband who can't handle the fact that his wife found something better. I took a bite of pecan pie. Is that what she found? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like she found a man who's 3 times divorced, hides property in shell companies, and overcharges his clients by 6 figures. The pie might as well have been cardboard for all Daniel tasted it. What did you just say? I said your pecan pie looks good. Want a slice? His eyes went cold. If you think you can threaten me... Daniel, I'm a plumber. I fix things. I don't threaten anyone. But I do know how to trace where money flows, and buddy, your finances have more leaks than a house with copper pipes from 1962. He grabbed my arm. Not hard, but hard enough for 3 people to notice. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Actually, I think I do. And more importantly, so does the Texas State Bar Association. They received a very detailed complaint last Tuesday. Anonymous, of course. I hear they take allegations of client fund misappropriation very seriously. Daniel let go of my arm like it was electrified. You're bluffing. Am I? Tell you what, check your mail Monday morning. If I'm bluffing, you've got nothing to worry about. I walked away, leaving him standing there with a paper plate of barbecue he'd never eat. Behind me, I could feel Jennifer's stare burning holes in my back. Good. Let them both spend the weekend wondering what I knew and who I'd told. I wasn't bluffing. The complaint to the state bar was real, backed by 60 pages of documentation that Pete and I had assembled from public records, court filings, and financial discrepancies that anyone could have found if they'd bothered to look. The Dawson family settlement was just the beginning. We'd found similar patterns in 4 other cases spanning 8 years. But I wasn't done. The following Tuesday, 3 things happened simultaneously. The state bar opened a formal investigation into Daniel's firm. The county school board received an anonymous tip about the conflict of interest in their legal services contract. And Margaret Ashworth found a manila envelope in her mailbox containing printouts of her husband's hidden property holdings and a timeline of his affair with my wife, complete with the security camera timestamps from Ray's auto body shop. I didn't deliver any of those envelopes personally. I didn't have to. In a town like Ridgefield, information flows like water. All you have to do is find the right pipe. The fallout was spectacular and swift. Margaret Ashworth filed for divorce within 48 hours, and her attorney, a shark from Dallas who Daniel had once beaten in court, immediately moved to freeze all assets, including the hidden properties. The school board called an emergency meeting to review their legal services contract. And Daniel's own partners, suddenly very concerned about their professional liability, began a quiet internal audit. Jennifer called me in a panic. Marcus, Daniel's in serious trouble. They're saying he could be disbarred. That sounds like Daniel's problem. It's my problem too. If he loses everything, you'll have to find another man to cheat with. I'm sure you'll manage. That's cruel. No, Jennifer. Cruel is telling our son that his father doesn't love him. Cruel is threatening a 16-year-old into keeping secrets. Cruel is spending 14 months lying to my face while planning to take everything I've worked for. What I'm doing is just honest. She hung up crying. I went back to installing a water heater for the Garcias on Maple Street. Tyler showed up at the motor lodge 2 weeks later. He'd ridden his bike 4 miles in the August heat, and his face was sunburned and streaked with dried tears. Dad, I need to tell you something. I handed him a cold Gatorade from the mini fridge and sat down across from him. I'm listening. Mom's been lying. About everything. Not just the affair about you. She told me you hit her once, back before I was born. She told me you had a drinking problem. She told me the reason you work so much is because you can't stand being around us. None of that is true. I know that now. His voice cracked. I've been reading the text between her and Daniel. She leaves her phone unlocked sometimes. Dad, they've been planning this for over a year. Daniel told her exactly what to say to me to make me hate you. He wrote scripts for her. Actual scripts. I sat with that for a long moment. How do you feel about that? I feel like I've been the stupidest person in the world. You were here the whole time, being my dad, and I believed every word she said because I was scared. You're 16. You were scared. That's not stupid, that's human. I chose her side, Dad. I looked you in the eye and told you I didn't know what to believe, but I did know. I just didn't have the guts to say it. I wanted to tell him it was fine, that it didn't hurt, that I understood completely. But I was done lying, even the kind lies that make everyone feel better. It did hurt, I said. More than finding your mother with another man. More than losing the house or the money or any of it. The thought that my own son believed I didn't love him, that was the worst part. Tyler started crying then. Not the angry tears of a teenager, but the deep, shaking sobs of someone confronting something they'd been running from. I let him cry. I didn't rush to fix it, didn't offer empty comfort, didn't pretend that a hug would undo 5 months of damage. When he finally calmed down, he asked the question I'd been waiting for. What happens now? Now you decide what kind of man you want to be. Not based on what your mother tells you or what Daniel promises you or what anyone else expects. You decide. I want to be like you. No, I said. Be better than me. I spent too many years being a doormat because I thought that's what a good husband does. Don't make that mistake. Respect yourself enough to demand respect from others. Can I stay here tonight? I looked around the cramped motel room with its water-stained ceiling and humming mini fridge. It's not exactly the Hilton. It's where you are. That's enough. He slept on the pull-out couch while I lay awake, staring at the ceiling and listening to my son breathe. For the first time in months, the anger felt less like a wildfire and more like embers. Still hot enough to burn, but contained, controlled. Daniel Ashworth's world continued to collapse over the following weeks. The State Bar investigation revealed a pattern of financial misconduct spanning nearly a decade. His partners voted to dissolve the firm rather than face collective liability. Margaret's divorce attorney uncovered offshore accounts that even I hadn't found. By September, the man who'd been one of the most powerful people in Ridgefield couldn't get a table at the diner without people whispering. Jennifer came to see me at my job site one morning. She looked 10 years older than the woman I'd married. Marcus, I'm losing the house. Daniel's assets are frozen, I can't afford the mortgage on my salary alone, and the bank won't renegotiate. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Because it feels like you orchestrated all of this. I put down my pipe wrench and looked at her. Really looked at her, maybe for the first time since that Wednesday afternoon. Jennifer, do you want to know what I orchestrated? I filed a complaint based on public records that anyone could access. That's it. Everything else, Daniel's fraud, his hidden properties, his decade of cheating clients, that was all him. I didn't create those problems. I just made sure they couldn't stay buried. You destroyed my life. No, you destroyed our life. I just refused to let you destroy mine too. She left without another word. The divorce was finalized in November. I didn't ask for the house. I didn't want it. Too many ghosts in those walls. Too many memories trapped in pipes I'd installed and fixtures I'd chosen and rooms I'd painted on weekends while Jennifer complained about the smell of primer. I asked for shared custody of Tyler, my truck, my tools, and my business. The judge, who'd heard all about Daniel's schemes, granted everything without argument. I found an apartment above the hardware store downtown. 2 bedrooms, good water pressure, and a landlord who gave me a discount because I'd fixed his plumbing for free during the ice storm 3 years back. Small-town karma works both ways. Tyler moved in with me every other week. The first night, he looked around the apartment and said, "It's small. It's Orse. I like it." We fell into a rhythm. I cooked badly at first, then better. Tyler did his homework at the kitchen table while I worked on estimates and invoices. On weekends, he started coming to job sites with me, not because I asked him to, but because he wanted to. Teach me something useful, he said. So I taught him how to sweat a copper joint, how to read a blueprint, how to diagnose a problem by listening to the way water moves through pipes. You can tell a lot about a house by its plumbing, I told him one Saturday, while we replaced a corroded supply line in Mrs. Patterson's basement. The pipes don't lie. They show you what's really going on behind the walls, even when everything looks fine on the surface. Like people? Exactly like people. Jennifer called me on a Tuesday evening in January. Tyler was at basketball practice, and I was eating leftover chili and watching the news. Marcus, I know I don't deserve this, but I need to talk to you. About what? I went to therapy. My therapist said I need to make amends. Not for you, for me. Okay. I was wrong. About everything. About Daniel. About the affair. About what I told Tyler. I was selfish and scared, and I convinced myself that if I could replace you with someone more successful, more polished, more impressive, that it would fix whatever was broken inside me. And did it? You know it didn't. Daniel wasn't a better man than you. He was just a better liar. I let the silence stretch. Outside, a train whistle sounded in the distance. I don't want you back, Jennifer. I need you to understand that. I know. But I want you to be a good mother to Tyler. He needs that. He needs to know that at least one of the choices you made wasn't a mistake. She was crying again, but it sounded different this time. Less performance, more genuine pain. He adores you, you know. He talks about you constantly. Marcus taught me this, Dad showed me that. You're his whole world. He's mine too. I'm sorry, Marcus. Not because I got caught. Not because of the consequences. I'm sorry because you deserved better, and I was too blind to see what I had until I'd burned it all down. I believed her. Not enough to forgive her some pipes, once cracked, can't be soldered back together, but enough to let go of the last of the anger I'd been carrying like a toolbox full of lead. Take care of yourself, Jennifer. You too. I hung up and finished my chili. On the first Saturday of spring, Tyler and I drove to the lumberyard outside of town. He'd been asking me to teach him woodworking, and I'd finally set up a workbench in the apartment's spare room. What are we building? He asked, loading 2x4s into the truck bed. Whatever you want. Can we build a bookshelf? My room at Mom's doesn't have one, and I've got books stacked on the floor. A bookshelf it is. We spent the whole weekend measuring, cutting, sanding, and assembling. Tyler messed up twice, cut a board too short, drove a screw at the wrong angle, and both times I showed him how to fix it without starting over. Everything can be fixed? He asked. Most things. If you're willing to put in the work, and you catch the problem early enough. He looked at me in that way teenagers do when they're about to say something important but aren't sure they should. Dad, do you regret any of it? The stuff you did to Daniel, the complaints, the investigation, any of it? I thought about it honestly. I regret that it was necessary. I wish your mother and I could have sat down like adults and figured things out. But when someone decides to destroy you, and they're using the system to do it, sometimes the only option is to show them that the system works both ways. So you don't feel guilty? I feel sad. There's a difference. Guilt means you did something wrong. Sadness means you wish things had turned out differently. I wish your mother hadn't cheated. I wish Daniel hadn't been a crook. I wish I'd paid more attention to what was happening in my own house. But I don't feel guilty for telling the truth. Tyler nodded slowly, turning a piece of sandpaper over in his hands. I want to be the kind of man who builds things, not the kind who tears them down. Then be that man, starting right now, with this bookshelf. We finished it that Sunday evening. It wasn't perfect. One shelf was slightly higher on the left side, and the stain was a shade darker than we'd planned. But it was solid, level where it counted, built to hold weight. Tyler ran his hand along the top shelf and smiled. It's good, Dad. It's good enough. And good enough, built with honest hands, beats perfect built on lies every single time. I drove him to his mother's house and helped him carry the bookshelf upstairs to his room. Jennifer watched from the hallway but didn't say anything. She didn't need to. The bookshelf said everything a father and son, building something new from raw materials, one careful measurement at a time. Back at my apartment, I made coffee and sat by the window. The town was settling into evening, porch lights clicking on one by one, the distant sound of someone's television carrying through the warm spring air. Somewhere out there, Daniel Ashworth was preparing for a trial that would likely end his career for good. Somewhere, Jennifer was adjusting to a life without safety nets. And somewhere, my 16-year-old son was loading books onto a shelf his father helped him build, learning the only lesson that ever really mattered. The things worth having are the things you build yourself, and the things you build with love and honest work, those are the things that last.